So I was going to just present a quick little outline of the project charter. I'm going to review the key guiding principles and objectives that were from the parking strategy 2007.
Questions? Alto, Gudgeon, Issit, Fortin, Joe?
Two questions. One is, on page 4, you reference affected parking stakeholders. Who are and how do you involve and engage the affected parking stakeholders?
One's there, Downtown Business Association, Chamber of Commerce, Commissioner, Court Commissioner. A lot of them are going to be similar to the ones we used in the parking strategy 2007 advisory group. There will be some other ones, taxi groups, delivery services. Like, there's a number that are going to be affected by, depending on what we're reviewing at the time. Those stakeholders are all going to be spoken to. Downtown businesses specifically, not just the association.
Is the meter reading operation model being contemplated for review? Or how meters are read and enforcement on street occurs?
Maybe I'm not understanding how meters are.
Sorry, I think I'm just going Councillor Isaac. Are we still considering whether we're going to contract out commissioners to enforce this stuff, or we're going to bring it in-house? I think the answer would probably be
would examining that question. Would examining that question be within the scope of the review?
I think we can. I think we can definitely do that.
That's what the third bullet from the bottom, parking enforcement violation prevention. So yes, that would also look at what model we have, whether that's contracted out or in-house. So yes, sure. that's certainly what we do.
Then flowing out of that, the first item, how extensive is that in terms of reviewing the operations of the parkades? Will that include privatized operations of city parkades, or?
The partial automation would fall into that. Security would fall into that. Parking rates. It's really the whole operation of it, but turning it over to a private, that wasn't really going to be part of that, but we can certainly add that or include that.
Well, right now it's not included. If there was an express view of council, the intent of the study is not to say, well, do we go and privatize all our parkades? That's not.
That's something you're interested in moving forward on?
No, I have another question. I guess, would there be a way for council to indicate a more restrictive mandate? See, I brought up
motion. Move a motion. Focus us on. We'll see if there's support for the motion.
Sure, I will. I'll move to strike out item 5 on page 3.
5 on page 3.
Page 102 of 144.
And the only reason I'm going to rule that out of order is I believe that council has already directly addressed that issue and said that rather than doing it, we would consider it. And so I'm ruling it out of order because it's a decision of the council to consider, not to do it, to consider it. That motion to amend would be, thank you. That is the ruling of the chair.
Okay, then I'll move to strike out the language. So leave item 5 and move that it read, review the feasibility of installing automated collection equipment at the Centennial Square and View Street parkades.
Thank you. I'm hearing from others that that's the same thing.
Well, I don't think it is the same thing. Like we have.
I'm sorry. Can you say what you said again?
I was suggesting that if the desire is to partially automate parkades, then it would be to restrict that analysis to the 2 parkades that don't have partial automation already, rather than endorsing a more robust version, which I don't think council's been fairly agnostic on this issue, and there's been a lot of visions of what that would look like. And so if the goal is to partially automate in slow periods, we only have 2 facilities that don't already have that capacity. And so it would allow council to state its preference whether a more restrictive implementation was preferred in the review, or whether it wants staff to go to explore the more robust version. I personally think we can likely avoid a confrontation with workers who've been working in these parkades for decades if we did adopt the more restrictive approach. So I went into my budget package and reviewed the signatures of 2,826 Parkade users who have spoken fairly clearly. So I just think before council decides how it wishes to proceed with this review, I think we could, for the savings that are potentially anticipated, I think the confrontation with our community could simply be avoided to allow our staff to focus on areas of new revenue. The overall pie of $13 million.
So you now are arguing not to do it, which is different than what your motion is.
No, I'm arguing, my motion says to explore those two facilities, which I think would give some comfort to employees and users of the parkades, that we're not pursuing anything more robust. And it would basically a direction from council to staff to focus on, basically to put the staffing issue within parkades as being a distant priority in the review and not the major focus, which is capturing new revenue both through our parkades and our on-street parking facilities.
Thank you. Alto and then Helms.
I'm going to speak against the amendment because I think all of the goals just stated by Councillor Issit are actually achieved by the existing recommendation, which says review opportunities. And I'm going to expect that our staff in reviewing opportunities will return to us with suggestions about whether or not it makes sense from a financial and a variety of other parameters to partially automate some parkades or all parkades.
Someone was asked to call the question. All those in favor of calling the question? Opposed? No one opposed? All those in favor of the amendment? Councillor Issit? All those opposed? Is everybody else? Councillor Issit? The amendment fails. Now back to the main motion, which I'm not sure is on the table. If I could, the motion on the floor is to review the charter that's in front of us. All those in favor?